This is today's Bible reading. Transition, the book of Judges. The brief introduction of the book of Judges again makes clear that the Israelite invasion of Canaan was incomplete. The major portion of the book focuses on the judges, the men and women by whom God delivered his people from oppressors. Though the judges were usually military leaders, they also exercised administrative duties, and some of them are not reported to have led armies at all, such as the minor judges. By the end of the book, the Confederacy appears ready to collapse. The tribes had never been entirely unified, either in worship or war. Four of them, Reuben, Gad, Gilead, Dan, and Asher, seem not to have responded to Deborah's summons to assist the other tribes in battle. By the latter stages of the judges' period, the tribes had fallen into idolatry and civil war. The refrain of the final chapters, in those days there was no king in Israel, everyone did what was right in his own eyes, points ahead to 1 Samuel and the beginning of the monarchy. Now, Book of Judges, chapter 1, the continuing conquest of Canaan. Chapter 1. Now, after the death of Joshua, it came to pass that the children of Israel asked the Lord, saying, who shall be first to go up for us against the Canaanites to fight against them? And the Lord said, Judah shall go up. Indeed, I have delivered the land into his hand. So Judah said to Simeon his brother, come up with me to my allotted territory, that we may fight against the Canaanites, and I will likewise go with you to your allotted territory. And Simeon went with him. Then Judah went up, and the Lord delivered the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hand. And they killed 10,000 men at Bezek. And they found Adonibezek in Bezek, and fought against him. And they defeated the Canaanites and the Perizzites. Then Adonibezek fled, and they pursued him, and caught him, and cut off his thumbs and his big toes. And Adonibezek said, 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off used to gather scraps under my table, as I have done, so God has repaid me. Then they brought him to Jerusalem, and there he died. Now the children of Judah fought against Jerusalem and took it. They struck it with the edge of the sword and set the city on fire. And afterward the children of Judah went down to fight against the Canaanites, who dwelt in the mountains, in the south, and in the lowland. Then Judah went against the Canaanites who dwelt in Hebron. Now the name of Hebron was formerly Kiriath Arba, and they killed Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai. From there they went against the inhabitants of Debir. The name of Debir was formerly Kiriath Sepher. Then Caleb said, whoever attacks Kiriath Sepher and takes it, to him I will give my daughter Aksa as wife. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, took it. So he gave him his daughter Aksa as wife. Now it happened when she came to him that she urged him to ask her father for a field. And she dismounted from her donkey, and Caleb said to her, what do you wish? So she said to him, give me a blessing, since you have given me land in the south, give me also springs of water. And Caleb gave her the upper springs and the lower springs. Now the children of the Kenite, Moses' father-in-law, went up from the city of Palms, with the children of Judah into the wilderness of Judah, which lies in the south near Arad. And they went and dwelt among the people. And Judah went with his brother Simeon, and they attacked the Canaanites who inhabited Zephath and utterly destroyed it. So the name of the city was called Hormah. Also, Judah took Gaza with its territory, Ashkelon with its territory, and Ekron with its territory. So the Lord was with Judah, and they drove out the mountaineers. But they could not drive out the inhabitants of the lowland, because they had chariots of iron. And they gave Hebron to Caleb, as Moses had said. Then he expelled from there the 3 sons of Anak. But the children of Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites who inhabited Jerusalem. So the Jebusites dwell with the children of Benjamin in Jerusalem to this day. And the house of Joseph also went up against Bethel, and the Lord was with them. So the house of Joseph sent men to spy out Bethel. The name of the city was formerly Luz. And when the spies saw a man coming out of the city, they said to him, "Please show us the entrance to the city, and we will show you mercy." So he showed them the entrance to the city, and they struck the city with the edge of the sword. But they let the man and all his family go. And the man went to the land of the Hittites, built a city, and called its name Luz, which is its name to this day. In complete conquest of the land. However, Manasseh did not drive out the inhabitants of Beth-shean and its villages, or Tanakh and its villages, or the inhabitants of Dor and its villages, or the inhabitants of Iblim and its villages, or the inhabitants of Megiddo and its villages. For the Canaanites were determined to dwell in that land. And it came to pass, when Israel was strong, that they put the Canaanites under tribute, but did not completely drive them out. Nor did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites who dwelt in Gezer. So the Canaanites dwelt in Gezer among them. Nor did Zebulun drive out the inhabitants of Kitron, or the inhabitants of Nahalol. So the Canaanites dwelt among them, and were put under tribute. Nor did Asher drive out the inhabitants of Akko, or the inhabitants of Sidon, or of Alab, Akzib, Helba, Afik, or Rehob. So the Asherites dwelt among the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land, for they did not drive them out. Nor did Naphtali drive out the inhabitants of Beth Shemesh, or the inhabitants of Beth Anat, but they dwelt among the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land. Nevertheless, the inhabitants of Beth Shemesh and Beth Anat were put under tribute to them. And the Amorites forced the children of Dan into the mountains, for they would not allow them to come down to the valley. And the Amorites were determined to dwell in Mount Heres, in Aijalon, and in Shalbim. Yet, when the strength of the house of Joseph became greater, they were put under tribute. Now the boundary of the Amorites was from the ascent of Akrabim, from Selah and upward. Arad in the inscriptions, Judges chapter 1, 16. The southern region of Judah, a dry wilderness area, was known as the Negev, translated the south in Judges 1:16. Arad was a Canaanite town in the Negev. Thus, the writer of Judges employs the description in the south near Arad. The site of Arad was a large fortified town during the early Bronze Age, 3000 BC, and showed extensive trade connections with Old Kingdom Egypt. This Arad was destroyed about 2700 BC. Another Arad emerged later during the Iron Age, 1200 through 600 BC, as is known from various inscriptions. Pieces of broken pottery, called by the Greek name ostraka, were used as inexpensive writing material. being inscribed with pen and ink. The name Arad appears on these pottery fragments or potsherds, as well as being mentioned in the records of Shishak, the Egyptian pharaoh. Over 200 ostraka have been found at the site of Arad. One inscription mentions a house of Yahweh, using the personal name of Israel's God. This shrine or temple has in fact been found, containing a number of stone altars. The inscriptions also list a number of Hebrew names of priestly families. The most prominent name is that of a particular Eliashib, who held a leadership position. The common name Eliashib appears often in the Old Testament, although none are the same person as the Arad Eliashib. Pharaoh Shusha claims to have captured Arad during a raid of Palestine in 925 BC. An inscription on the walls of the temple of Karnak, listing over 150 towns which Shusha captured, includes the citadel of Arad. Archaeological excavations show that Arad was destroyed by fire during Shushak's time. Chapter 2, Israel's disobedience. Then the angel of the Lord came up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I led you up from Egypt and brought you to the land of which I swore to your fathers, and I said, I will never break my covenant with you, and you shall make no covenant with the inhabitants of this land. You shall tear down their altars, but you have not obeyed my voice. Why have you done this? Therefore I also said, I will not drive them out before you, but they shall be thorns in your side. And their God shall be a snare to you. So it was, when the angel of the Lord spoke these words to all the children of Israel, that the people lifted up their voices and wept. Then they called the name of that place Bochim, and they sacrificed there to the Lord. And when Joshua dismissed the people, the children of Israel went each to his own inheritance to possess the land. Death of Joshua. So the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders who outlived Joshua, who had seen all the great works of the Lord which he had done for Israel. Now Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died when he was 110 years old, and they buried him within the border of his inheritance at Timnath-Heres, in the mountains of Ephraim, on the north side of Mount Gash. When all that generation had been gathered to their fathers, another generation arose after them, who did not know the Lord nor the work which he had done for Israel. Israel's unfaithfulness. Then the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord and served the Baals, and they forsook the Lord, God of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt. And they followed other gods from among the gods of the people who were all around them, and they bowed down to them, and they provoked the Lord to anger. They forsook the Lord and served the Baal and the Ashtoreths. And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, so he delivered them into the hands of plunderers who despoiled them. And he sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, so that they could no longer stand before their enemies. Wherever they went out, the hand of the Lord was against them for calamity, as the Lord had said, and as the Lord had sworn to them, and they were greatly distressed. Nevertheless, the Lord raised up judges who delivered them out of the hand of those who plundered them. Yet they would not listen to their judges, but they played the harlot with other gods and bowed down to them. They turned quickly from the way in which their fathers walked, in obeying the commandments of the Lord. They did not do so. And when the Lord raised up judges for them, the Lord was with the judge and delivered them out of the hand of their enemies all the days of the judge. For the Lord was moved to pity by their groaning because of those who oppressed them and harassed them. And it came to pass when the judge was dead that they reverted and behaved more corruptly than their fathers, by following their other gods to serve them and bow down to them. They did not cease from their own doings, nor from their stubborn way. Then the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he said, because this nation has transgressed my covenant, which I commanded their fathers, and has not heeded my voice, I also will no longer drive out before them any of the nations which Joshua left when he died, so that through them I may test Israel, whether they will keep the ways of the Lord, to walk in them as their fathers kept them, or not. Therefore the Lord left those nations without driving them out immediately, nor did he deliver them into the hands of Joshua. Organize a pantheon of many gods. Judges 2:11 through 13. When the Israelites served the Baals, they were buying into the mythological structure of the universe understood by the local culture. The gods of the religious world of Syria-Palestine were formed into a four-level hierarchy, not unlike a small localized bureaucracy. The highest authorities of the Canaanite universe were the deities El and Asherah, the parents of all other gods. They were the actual rulers of the cosmos and the final court of appeal for both gods and humans. As highest rulers, they assigned each of their offspring responsibility for specific tasks in governing the world. The second level of deities was an especially rowdy group, as the myths recovered from Ugarit demonstrate. These gods were the powers behind the forces of nature, the political fates of cities and empires, and even behind abstractions such as justice. Very powerful, they ordered the universe, promoted the welfare of their worshippers, and advanced themselves against other deities. Conflicting interests of their divine wills explained for devotees why the world did not always operate as it ought. Our third level of gods served as craftsmen and artisans for the higher deities. As specialists in the professions, their expertise was unsurpassed. They might contradict and even argue with higher level gods when ordered to do things they themselves knew to be folly. While they obeyed orders, they were not averse to mocking their superiors for the inferior knowledge those gods had of the work at hand. At the bottom level of the divine hierarchy were the messenger deities, the angels. They were the slave labor of the Canaanite heaven. The position of any of the higher deities in the four-level bureaucracy was determined by El and Asherah and could be changed at any time, particularly for misuse of authority. Israel's temptation to try out some of these deities sometimes was too great. Besides Asherah, they knew of second-level gods and goddesses such as Baal and Anat. The idol that Hezekiah called Nehushtan represents a healing deity of the third level. Transition. How long was the era of the judges? After Joshua's death, conditions changed quickly for the Israelite tribes. Their experiences are described in Judges 2:11 through 3:6 as a recurring cycle of apostasy, oppression, supplication, and deliverance. The collection of stories in 3:7 through 16:31 reports the exploits of Israel's judges during 7 cycles of oppression and deliverance. Despite many attempts, scholars have not been able to determine the length of time represented in these stories. The book provides various numbers for the years of the judges' period. Three types of chronological information indicate the number of years. 1. That Israel was oppressed. 2. That Israel had peace following a deliverance. And 3. The particular individual served as judge. When tabulated, the total of these years is 410, but this figure does not necessarily represent the length of this period. Interpreting the numbers is complicated by the possibility of overlapping time periods and of symbolic numbers. It was common to list periods chronologically which were either contemporaneous or overlapping. Since most of the judges were confined to particular tribes or regions, it is reasonable to assume considerable overlapping of the periods and events. The report that in one period Israel was oppressed by both Philistia and Ammon could suggest that Jephthah and Samson may have been living and working at the same time. Many of the numbers in the book of Judges may be symbolic rather than chronological. 12 judges are mentioned, although a detailed account is given for only 6. While there were possibly many more judges than these, the number 12 speaks in symbolic fashion of the whole of an era. The same is true for the 7 cycles of oppression and deliverance, with the 7 also depicting a sense of completeness. Also, the duration of leadership ascribed to many of the judges is in units or multiples of 40. A number frequently denoting a generation of unspecified length. Unexact, precise dating of the judges' period will remain unknown. No references to contemporary events of this period are available. The figure of 300 years in Judges 11:26 represents a period from Israel's victory over King Sihon of Heshbon to Jephthah's speech, but is difficult to coordinate with other evidence. All that can be said with certainty is that the period of Israel's judges stretches from the entry into Canaan until the establishment of the monarchy with Saul around 1050 or 1020 BC. Amen. This is the end of the Bible reading today. Thanks for joining me. God bless you, and see you tomorrow.